Well, picture this. You just got the email. You have been accepted into that incredibly prestigious institution.
Right, or maybe you just landed that massive career-defining promotion.
Exactly. And for about 5 minutes, you are absolutely euphoric. I mean, you are on top of the world.
But then, almost like clockwork, the joy drains out of you.
Yeah, the stomach just completely drops. You look in the mirror and think, oh, wow, I am a total fraud. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, and they are definitely going to figure it out.
It is the classic paralyzing grip of imposter syndrome. Suddenly, the very thing you worked so incredibly hard to achieve becomes the thing you are most terrified of facing.
You're standing at the starting line, and your legs just feel like lead.
Absolutely.
So today we are taking a deep dive into Book 1, Chapter 8 of our source text. We are specifically focusing on this fascinating poem called An Inspired Life.
And the mission for this deep dive is to figure out exactly why that paralyzing imposter syndrome happens in the first place.
Right, and more importantly, how to beat it. But we're not going to be talking about typical solutions like gritting your teeth or faking it till you make it.
No, not at all. The author proposes a completely counterintuitive method.
Yeah, they argue that inspiration isn't just a fleeting spark, but the ultimate magic incantation for living, and that it is actually a practical tool for overcoming fear that completely supersedes mere willpower.
And we get to explore this through a highly relatable narrative. The text introduces us to this young man named Erasmus.
Right, he is 18 years old.
And he's standing at the literal threshold of Oxford University. He's been accepted, his parents have dropped him off, but that initial euphoria has completely evaporated.
He is, in his own words, anxious and afraid. He's looking at this incredibly competitive, daunting environment, and he's realizing he just doesn't have the fire in his belly for it.
He feels like he fundamentally lacks the determination and the grit he needs to survive, let alone succeed, in a place like Oxford.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, this universal fear of just not being ready for a new horizon sets the perfect stage for a profound shift in perspective.
So we transition from Erasmus's paralyzing anxiety directly to the intervention of his mentor. We're moving from the problem straight to the remedy.
Right. Erasmus is panicking, and he seeks out Mr. Newtonpayne.
I really love the vivid way this mentor is described in the text. Mr. Newtonpayne runs an antique bookshop. He's this sort of humble hero figure.
He sees Erasmus walk in looking completely terrified, and he instantly recognizes the crisis.
Yeah, he limps over to a shelf of scrolls. And I love this detail. His glasses are perched precariously at the end of his nose.
Such a great visual. And he pulls out what the text calls a literary prescription for his mentee's fear. He unrolls a manuscript titled An Inspired Life.
But before he even reads a single line, he looks at Erasmus and tells him something completely backwards to our modern sensibilities.
Right. He says, "You don't lack determination, young scholar. All you need to find is inspiration."
Wait, when we're scared, we're usually told to grit our teeth and push through.
Yeah.
If I call a friend right now and say I'm terrified of a new project, they're going to tell me to dig deep.
Embrace the grind. Push through the pain.
Exactly. We have a culture entirely obsessed with willpower. Mr. Newtonpayne is essentially saying that willpower is like trying to push a giant boulder up a massive hill, whereas inspiration is like finding a pulley system.
What's fascinating here is that this reframes fear entirely. It is not about fighting the anxiety anymore.
You don't have to push the boulder.
Right. It is about elevating above it through this sublime and overwhelming desire to live, create, and find joy.
So having introduced the scroll, we now dive directly into the text of the poem itself. We need to understand how inspiration actually acts as this pulley system to lift the boulder of fear.
Unpacking the author's imagery here is key. They describe inspired people as life sorcerers or wizards.
Which sounds a bit fantastical at first, but they don't just trudge through existence, they hover through it.
They hover. Yes. And the text says a powerful halo of positive energy radiates around them.
It's focusing heavily on this internal shift, right? And the complete defeat of willpower.
Yes, there are these provocative lines that really stand out. It says, "Will moves mountains, inspiration recreates them."
Oh, and it continues. It says, inspiration renders will ordinary, supersedes passion and conviction, and reduces self-confidence to a mere tool.
When you are truly inspired, the heaviness of life just disappears. Everything feels light, bright, and inviting.
But wait, I have to push back on that. Reducing self-confidence to a mere tool. That sounds almost reckless.
How so?
Well, we are conditioned to believe self-confidence is the bedrock of success. If I'm getting on an airplane, I want a confident pilot. If I'm going into surgery, I want a confident surgeon, not just an inspired one.
That is a very fair point.
Calling it a mere tool feels like it's undervaluing the most important trait you can have.
The author actually anticipates that exact reaction.
Hmm.
And to understand it, we bring in this classroom discussion from the text with Professor Cromwell-Smith.
Right, he's teaching this poem to a lecture hall.
And a student named David asks your exact question. How can inspiration possibly surpass self-confidence?
And the professor explains that self-confidence is actually finite. It draws only from your personal past experiences.
You are confident you can do something because you have already done it before.
Exactly. So what happens when you face a challenge that isn't in your day-to-days? Like Erasmus at Oxford. That is imposter syndrome.
Your confidence breaks because there's no data to draw from. But inspiration transcends those limits. It makes the impossible seem inevitable.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I like to think of self-confidence like a battery. It's incredibly useful, but it drains and needs recharging.
And eventually it runs flat.
Right. But inspiration is like plugging directly into the power grid.
Yes. If we connect this to the philosophical why of the text, inspiration brings our greatest gifts into harmony. It makes it the only true source of a continuous and blissfully happy existence.
But that raises a massive question. We've established that being a life wizard is the goal, but how do we actually achieve and maintain this magical state?
Without just sitting around waiting to be struck by lightning,
Exactly. The poem defines inspiration as being in a state of readiness.
having all our good antennas up.
Right. To capture life's best offerings and squeeze every drop from the journey.
But there is a crucial classroom question from Leela, an arts major, about whether this is purely emotional
I mean, relying on raw emotion sounds exhausting.
and potentially chaotic. But the professor notes it is actually a harmony. Emotion provides the spark, yes, but intellect shapes it into something tangible.
But then you have Robert, an engineering student, who asks the most practical question of all. How do we sustain this state in everyday life? We have bills to pay, right?
And the professor outlines an answer for the listener that is incredibly actionable. He calls it the environmental formula.
Sustaining that quieter, more consistent kind of inspiration.
Right. It requires surrounding yourself with people, experiences, and activities that actually align with your passions.
While rigorously maintaining gratitude and curiosity.
Yes, those two things specifically.
So it's not just a lightning bolt from the muse. It's more like farming.
Farming, I like that.
Yeah, you can't control the rain, right? But you can kill the soil, plant the seeds, and pull the weeds of negativity so that when the rain actually comes, the garden grows.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, curiosity and gratitude are those active daily practices that keep the antennas up.
Curiosity finds the new signal, and gratitude clears the static so you can actually hear it.
Exactly. It's an active cultivation.
So what does this all mean? We have journeyed from the paralyzing fear of a new horizon to this environmental formula of inspiration.
Which brings us back to the narrative of Erasmus and Mr. Newton Payne.
Right. The mentor's parting advice to Erasmus is so powerful. He tells him to look at the extraordinary new horizon ahead.
He says, don't stand in your own way. This is your moment to spread your wings and soar.
And the physical change in Erasmus is immediate. He walks home that night, and his stride shifts.
The tension literally fades from his face.
He breathes in this renewed energy. Because inspiration isn't a genetic gift. It's a cultivated state.
And it provides the literal lift needed to face whatever Oxford or daunting new horizon you are currently standing in front of.
You don't have to rely purely on your finite battery of self-confidence anymore.
No, you just need to put your antennas up.
Which leaves us with a provocative final thought to mull over. If true inspiration requires being in a state of readiness with your antennas up,
What is getting in the way?
right? What sort of daily static or routine clutter are you allowing in your environment right now that might be blocking your signal?